All right, guys, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Student Tech Internship panel. Today we're being joined by multiple incredible speakers, and we'll basically be discussing how to navigate the ins and outs of the internship application process, talking about general recruitment tips, and essentially how you can make yourself stand out in such a competitive industry like software engineering or computer science. So my name is Kavya. I'm one of the event directors at DSE, and I am very excited to be leading this panel today. All right, let's get started with an introduction to our speakers today. So first off, we have joining us is Param Gandhi. He is a junior at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He is a software engineering intern at DataChat, which is a startup founded in Madison. He's currently studying computer science, and he does have a background in full stack development and data analytics. And apart from academics, it's interesting that he's into Formula One and music. Really cool to hear, as I'm a huge Red Bull fan myself. So yeah. We also have joining us is Bohdana, who is a very passionate UI UX designer, social media manager, art director, and a DSC design and marketing club lead. And she's joining us all the way from Waterloo, Ontario, so that's exciting. We also have with us is Stephany Lopez. She's a software developer from South Texas, and she has experience working at numerous tech companies in different subfields, including things like software engineering, developer advocacy, program management, and she's also an incoming product management intern at Adobe. And something interesting about Stephany is that she founded the Pi Ladies RGB, where she aims to empower and develop the communities into creating innovative products. So really, it's going to be really interesting to hear how she got involved in creating that startup and how she does help students become empowered. We also have with us is Julie Quintero. She's a fourth-year computer science specialist, and she's focused in putting highly scalable deep learning models into production. She's built different pipelines for data processing, modeling, and evaluation, and she has multiple internship experiences in the fintech industry, more of a niche industry, if you will. So going to be interesting to hear how she got into that particular subfield. Last but not least, we also have joining us is Aditi Jain. She is a junior at the University of Texas, and she's studying computer science. She's the founder and ex-president of the Developer Student Club at UTD and the co-founder of Hack DSC, for those who have heard about it. She loves computer vision and product management and is also interested in operating systems. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your Saturday to join us here today. It's going to be great to hear from all of your experiences and all of your interests. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so for our first sub-tech talk topic, we're discussing why technology. And yes, I understand that's a very open-ended question. By that I mean, how did you know that you wanted to get into the subfield of technology that you did? And now that you're in it, is it everything that you expected it to be? So whether this be anything like machine learning, UI UX, product management, etc. Param, you want to start us off?
Yeah, for sure. So the way I got introduced to technology was in high school. I'd taken a couple of IT classes, which were more focused on the application of technology in business and in industry. And that's how I kind of got interested in the field. And freshman year at the University of Wisconsin, I was just taking different economics and computer science classes. And after taking those CS classes, I realized that everything that I had learned about technology in business can actually be implemented and like just developed by learning these fundamentals of computer science. And that idea of like creating something that wasn't there before, that's what kind of drives me even today to like learn newer things within the field of computer science. And yeah, taking several classes with UI UX, machine learning, deep learning, I would say they've exceeded like my expectations. And yeah, it's just an exciting field for me.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean, definitely, I think university is your chance to get introduced to like different topics, right? Something that you might not necessarily have been interested in. So for those of you who are interested in technology or pursuing something like machine learning, taking an elective on it might be something that could help you out. Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask our UI UX expert, Bohdana, how did you get into that field? I know it's an up and coming industry, if you will. How did you initially get interested in it?
So I was sorry that I'm from Ukraine, And I was studying in high school, which were all about information technology. And we have so many interesting information technology classes like computer graphics, C# programming, and other classes. And yeah, my parents were also a huge fan of the idea that I'm going to work in information technology industry, in tech industry, because you know, I think everyone knows that information technology is our future, and I think it's really important to, you know, to be connected to tech, because tech is going to drive our future and change the world. So yeah, at that time I was into software development more, but then I moved to Canada. I started my education. I took several courses in software development, also in UX UI, and I'm like, wow, I think I like UX UI more, because I also have a creative mindset and also technical mindset at the same time, and being able to combine creativity and tech in one job, it's like the best thing for me. So that's why I decided to switch to UX UI, and now I create beautiful and usable interfaces, and that's what makes my life better.
That's incredible to hear. I love how you worded that, the combination between creativity and tech, because oftentimes it's a little bit of a fixed mindset when you think that technology doesn't have that much of an integration of creativity. So I like that UI UX combines both. It's really great to hear that.
Thank you.
Stephany, I wanted to ask, I understand that you founded the PyLadies RGV organization. How did that come about? I mean, you have to be inspired to go into technology and then be further motivated to inspire others into getting excited about tech. So how did that come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I grew up in a low income region with no tech companies or startups. And so when I first learned about technology when I was making MySpace layouts when I was 10, and I was like, okay, this is super awesome. I think this is what I want to do. But I never really found a home in engineering. And so when I was doing engineering internships, I was like, okay, what's design? And then I started doing design projects. And then I was doing design projects. I'm like, okay, well, what's developer advocacy? And I think that because my own journey to tech was so complex and a lot more difficult than it needed to be, I kind of grew this innate interest in education. And so I knew that I wanted to help bridge the accessibility to education specifically for CS. And so since the beginning of my undergrad career, I've been working on a lot of initiatives and nonprofits to help increase that gap for people in URM communities to learn more about CS education. And so I then founded PyLadies RGV, which is a branch of the PyLadies International nonprofit. And it's really a community for women and other non-binary individuals to learn more about technology through the Python programming language. And it's just a community where we foster each other's growth and learn how to build really cool projects together. And then I've also founded some other student initiatives, and I'm also working on a new one soon. But yeah, that's kind of where my interest in education and technology stemmed.
Wow, that's just truly incredible to hear, that bridging the gap between accessibility to CS. I didn't realize that it was such a stigma, but to know that there's people tackling that through nonprofit organizations or initiatives like the PyLadies RGV organization, it's truly amazing to hear. Thank you, Stephany. All right, we also want to hear from Julie and Aditi. What got you guys into things like computer vision or just, you know, machine learning? What got you guys into that?
So I will go first, I guess. So I got into machine learning, I think last year. I was doing this project called Sudoku AI. I was going over LinkedIn and somebody was doing 100 days of code and they said, I made this. And I was like, that sounds cool. I have never touched machine learning or like haven't coded in Python a whole lot. And I was like, I want to do this. And I have no idea where to begin. So I just started it out of random and I completed it in like 2 to 3 days and wrote a tutorial about it. And that tutorial was liked by 62 people. And it made me like something is so nice and like helpful to other people. And at the same time, I enjoy doing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to finish an entire project in that short amount of time, right? And it really made me interesting was how it can capture an image and you can do so many things with it. It can analyze every single thing happening in the product itself. So that's how I got into machine learning. And yeah, and for me in tech, I'm kind of focusing on a intersection between product and machine learning. So I'm hoping to like figure out a way where I can use both of these things and maybe create a better solution to like our daily problems.
Wow. Okay. That's a very niche specific category that I'm interested to hear that you're focusing on. Wow. And yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm not sure who mentioned it, but it's something about like taking courses during your university experience, so you get a chance to become affiliated with different topics, whether that be machine learning, UI or UX. And if you're passionate about it, I mean, of course, you'll follow through on the projects like you got a chance to do. And if it's not what you're looking for, there's always other fields of technology, if not other fields entirely. So for sure, that passion portion needs to be there. I'm glad that you mentioned that. How about you, Julie? How did you get into technology in general?
In general, so I came from a high school that didn't really offer any tech courses or anything. And so I went into computer science out of just like research of like, I was someone who really wanted to build and make a difference in things. So at first I was really into like, I wanted to do app design. I wanted to create accessible things. And then machine learning came into my path after my first internship, which I worked at a fintech company, which was, building these ML models in production. And that's where like a big passion of mine started. So it was this idea that, a lot of the models and stuff that we have right now are great, they perform well, but they're not very scalable. And so I started kind of going towards those kind of projects and that kind of work. And that's kind of where my interest lies now. And that's what I was doing at DESA this past summer and what I'm going to go back to do this summer to work full time. So for me, it felt like it was like that perfect intersection of like, it's not only just, it's going to be something that's going to be actually used by a lot of people and it's going to make a difference. It's not just going to be a piece of technology that's like just the cool factor, which is what I kind of wanted to push away from.
Right, implementing it so that more students are able to use it. For sure. I really like that you're focusing on that. Well, thank you so much, guys. That's really great to hear how you all got into technology or into the subfields of technology that you're all in. Let's jump right into the main portion of today, which is the internships aspect. So when it comes to internships, what have you learned in your experience when applying for internships that help you stand out to recruiters within the application process, whether that's putting down specific skills on your resume or templates that you might suggest that students use? How do you make yourself stand out to recruiters when applying for tech internships? Feel free, feel free to jump in and answer.
Okay,
I think how are you? Go ahead, Bohdana.
Okay, thank you. So I was actually asking this question to my recruiter, my employer, like, why did you pick my resume? What did stand out for you? What are you looking for in students' resumes when you're looking for interns or co-ops? And he said that there are several points that are really, really important for them. The first one is that you're actually doing something outside of school. Like side projects or participating in hackathons or different stuff, and just don't forget to mention it in your resume. That's really important for employers. Also, he mentioned that our company is not that big. We have about 30 employees right now. But he mentioned that I have some social media management experience before, and I mentioned it in the resume because basically I wasn't sure why do I need to mention it, because that's not really related to design, UX, UI tech. But he said that it's like a great plus that they see that you have a different experience in some other fields as well that might help you in your work. It might help you. After that, they asked me to help them a little bit with social media, to make a strategy for them and stuff like this. So I just, there was also a big advantage for me. And another thing is that they always check out students' LinkedIns. So please make sure that your LinkedIn is good. You actually have connections there. You have a picture there. You have your resume. You have a description. So you actually building your digital presence correctly. So yeah, that was like a small advices that I got from my employer.
I really like that you mentioned that the connectivity and on LinkedIn is especially important because with tech internships or any tech jobs, your online presence is a huge factor in determining whether or not you get a position, whether or not a recruiter deems you worthy of working with. So for sure, keeping your LinkedIn updated, and as well, I like the fact that you mentioned taking different courses. Having that versatility and experiences definitely can make you stand out as an applicant from what I've seen. Param, if you wanted to jump in, I know earlier you wanted to mention something.
I think Bohdana nailed pretty much all of the key points. What I'll add to it is this year, especially after COVID, what I noticed is it's usually just a numbers game where you have to keep trying to apply to different kinds of companies as well, like big established ones as well as startups. And you never know where your set of skills and experience would be a perfect match. And I think it's all about just finding a company who you match with, in the sense that uh, most of the companies these days operate on a niche topic, and if you're passionate about that niche topic and have some exposure and experience to it, and you can display that through your resume, then I think it goes a long way in getting you that first interview and then going through the process and getting you the internship. And also, LinkedIn, as Bohdana mentioned, is pretty important. I started cold messaging people via LinkedIn. And what did specifically was filter out all the people who went to my school, so who went to Wisconsin. And that way, when I reached out to my alumni at different companies, they were pretty responsive and helped me get referrals and stuff. So yeah, those were the two key things: applying like to a bunch of companies of different types, and also being proactive in the sense of reaching out via cold messaging.
Right, no, for sure. I like that you brought up the code messaging aspect. So for the U of T students, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the U of T Connect. That's an easy way for us to connect with alumni who have already since graduated from U of T. So say that they're working in an industry or a particular field that you're interested in, then for sure reach out via LinkedIn, via Connect, and then see, hi, I'm interested in working with so-and-so organization or in so-and-so field. How can I get involved? And I feel like seeing as how they're alumni, they will most likely be wanting to contribute back to the U of T community. So I'm sure they'll respond. And if not one of the other ones has to respond. So for sure, it's a numbers game, and as well, make sure you reach out. Aditi, what do you think when it comes to internships? What have you done that has made you stand out to recruiters?
So before I say what made me stand out, one very big mistake that I was making initially when I was applying to jobs was the resume format. So I had, you know how I think Resume Now or some websites have these fancy, colorful resumes. And I use those and they really don't help. I thought they look really nice. They're very readable. But ultimately, when I changed to a very simple Word format, it increased the number of times I get interviews calls like significantly, at least twice as many. So I would say just don't use colorful formats. It has to be very simple. That's one big thing. And second, I would say is when you mentioned about emailing people or texting people through LinkedIn, rather than just straight asking for a referral, I know a lot of people do that, is also to make sure that these people are also just working. You know, you also want to know about the company. Go for like, hey, if I could set up a 15-20 minute coffee chat with you, or just have a call so I can learn more about the field, maybe about the company, because that way they will genuinely think you're interested, right? And it's often better to do these things like before the actual recruitment starts, because usually, you know, like all the companies will open like July end or maybe August start, right? So if you text them maybe in July first 2 weeks or something, they will think you're genuinely interested, even though you may or may not be. That's a different topic, but it will seem like that. And they'll be like, okay, this person seems interesting and they might be a good fit to the company and they might prefer you. It really increases your chances, and they can probably vouch for you if you had a great conversation with them, and you get an extra mentor. So
I would actually add to that, because I've honestly got my internships through networking. I feel like that has been the best way for me to stand out. I find that, you know, messaging people within your network and staying connected with them even throughout the process. Like I have friends who, you know, after I got my full-time offer, I still have sometimes, you know, recruiters coming to me saying, oh, do you want this internship for the summer? And I've redirected it to my friends or people that I know that are looking and are passionate about it. And that's because, you know, they've made the effort to talk to me about like what they want to do or whatever it is. And then when I see something, I'll push it to those people. And I find that, you know, that's what someone did to me. So that's what now what I do to others as well. And keeping connected with like even your year, the year under, the year above you from your university really, really helps. Because, you know, you all went through the same kind of education, you know what everyone knows. And so like that networking I find is the best way to get an internship. That's the way I've done it. I still have not been like, the ones I've hit have been through talking to people, because you get that, you know, that connection with the recruiter or like the manager, which goes beyond your resume.
I have one more to add here. What I did, I think a few months ago, is set up LinkedIn job alerts. And I think this is a pretty useful tool, because you can like tune your job alert to like your interest as well. So you can just log into LinkedIn and go to jobs, and there's a create alert button. And then within that, you can filter out show me job postings for internships. And within that, you can say show me postings from companies within a particular area or country, or within a particular field like machine learning, UI, UX, engineering, whatever you're interested in. And every week I get an update from LinkedIn about new job postings. And what really helps is once a posting is made, the sooner you apply, the better your chances are. So that is why this tool was extremely useful for me.
So just to kind of sum up all of the ideas and themes that were thrown out there, one is connecting with people, not just reaching out and asking for a referral, but genuinely making the effort to show that you're interested in that field and ask for, I think someone mentioned as a coffee chat, have your LinkedIn job notifications on, or I guess internship notifications on. Use platforms like U of T Connect or anything where you can reach out to alumni of your school, because of course that makes a more meaningful impact than just reaching out to somebody who might not know you at all or be affiliated with you. And yeah, also somebody mentioned it, that it's a numbers game. And at the end of the day, in such a competitive field, it does come down to how many places you apply to. And yeah, you just got to keep trying, I guess. So thank you so much for your feedback on that, everybody. We can move on to our next sub-tech talk topic, which is recruitment/interviews. So when it comes to the recruitment process, what do you think recruiters look for in specific when applying to positions in tech or software, machine learning, UI, UX, whatever the subfield that you're in? What do you think that they look for in terms of, are there specific skills that they'll filter out? Are there certifications that you can get on LinkedIn or Coursera that'll help your resume and your cover letter stand out? And what was the interview process for you like when you did eventually get an interview? Was it difficult towards the technical versus behavioral? What was difficult in that sense? Would you like to start us off, Stephany?
Sure. So I think that one thing that will make you stand out in the interview process is to do your research. And so I think one piece of advice that a lot of people offer is to just apply everywhere. And while that may be like a really good last case scenario, I would advise you to choose 3 to 5 really good, strong companies that you feel passionate about working for, and do your research about what products they have, what projects they're working on. Like some of the panelists mentioned in the last round, reach out to people on LinkedIn and see if you could learn more about people's work and try to build that connection with them, and then understand what the mission is at the company that you're trying to work for, and then how you can make an impact there. And so things that you can do as soon as you have those conversations or like that research that you've done is take those courses, take those initiatives to build projects that kind of relate to those missions of the company. And so for one of my past internships, I worked as a PM intern for Github on their education team, and I already had a ton of education experience within the tech industry. And so it was very easy to make myself a strong candidate because I already had that experience that was being asked for in that position. And then I think one piece of advice that I would offer for people in the interview as a whole is tech interviews are hard no matter where you go. And so I think that one thing to kind of take the nerves off is to just think of it as a conversation. As soon as you begin to look at your interviewer or your recruiter as a person or like a future friend, rather than like someone who has your future in their hands, it takes like the nerves away. And so like as soon as you begin to look at it as a conversation, or even like a tutoring session, it becomes a lot more easy.
No, definitely. I think it's important that you brought up the fact that you should research what the company that you're applying for is interested in or what they're looking for, because it's all about, at the end of the day, it's about what value that you can add to their team. Of course, you have your own self-interest in this in landing a position, but from their perspective, it's what you can bring to their team and what you offer. So if you're catering your resume and your skills and your projects to what they're working on, then of course you would stand out as an applicant. So I'm glad that you brought up that important point. Aditi, what do you think? Whether it be the technical interview, whether it just be behavioral interview, any advice or tips?
So for the interview part, I would say is one thing I always do is before my interview actually starts, like maybe that night, like the night before or that morning, I will look those people on LinkedIn and send them a message like, hey, I'm meeting with you today. So glad. I was hoping we could connect. I could have done it a lot earlier, but the reason I don't do it is because those people haven't met me yet, right? So the chances of them accepting that request are higher when they remember, hey, I have a call at this point with this certain person, right? So maybe I cleared the first stage, right? And then I was like, hey, I cleared the first stage. I was hoping if you could give me tips in general. I have done this the way I landed up my internship at Unity was I did my first interview and the person was like, you applied for the TPM role, but I think you should go for the product role. That's like, looks more of your thing. And they referred me. They just met me in the interview and they officially referred me to the company. And that's how I got into the position. And it was so nice because he and I in the final interview had a conversation. Like it was so much like I'm talking to a friend, right? Somebody I can, just the way Stephany mentioned, look at that person as a person who's like going to be your future friend. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be working with them, right? Not for them, under them. It's working with them to create something successful, which means they should see you as an equal in ways, right? They might be more technically experienced than you, but they should see you as. So me and my interviewer were talking like 10 minutes after the interview about Discord and how awesome of a tool it is. So it's like just building that connection and just having that friendly chat. Oftentimes I get scared and I really mess up those interviews then. But if I'm having fun while giving the interview, I think those interviews tend to be way more successful than the rest. And as far as like preparation part goes, I think, or the way recruiters choose, like this is a good person or this is not. Again, Stephany mentioned it perfectly. Like they're looking for a person they can work with, right? So everyone kind of almost have the basic qualifications. That's why you got called onto the interview in the first place. So as long as they feel that you're an awesome person and they would love working with you, maybe you lack a little bit in the technical skills, right? But you can learn those. It's more about how friendly you are, how awesome they feel around you. That's what I would think.
Wow, I never thought to reach out to a recruiter that would be interviewing me ahead of time just to connect with them. But I think that's a really strong, tangible idea that people can take, because I guess like by making that connection beforehand, they remember your name. If your LinkedIn has your profile photo, they remember your face, and it's a great way to make a much more lasting impression on your interviewer. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Thank you, Aditi. How about you, Bohdana? What would you say are your tips for the interview/recruitment process, especially with UI UX? I'm just curious, as I'm not too familiar with how the technical portion of those interviews would go. What would you recommend students do?
Yes, so first of all, I wanted to say that I completely agree with Aditi. And my employer told me that it's so important how you behave during your interview. They are looking for a person to work with. And also my employer told me that so when they're interviewing students, they know that those guys are students. They don't expect you to know everything. So it's completely fine if you're gonna say that I don't know this technology, but I'm willing to learn it. I'm super excited to learn it and work with you guys. So don't be afraid to say that you don't know something. That's completely fine. Just say that you don't know it, but I definitely looking forward to learning it. So in terms of UX UI, I had really fun interview for my internship. It was just a fun interview with my employers, with CTO and CO. We were talking about 30 minutes, and it was just a nice, friendly talk. We were laughing, we were discussing stuff. It was just a nice, friendly talk. And right after the interview, I was expecting to get, some tasks to complete to show my skills, and they said, we have two news for you. The one would be bad is that we don't want to have any more interviews with you. And I'm like, why? No, what did I do wrong? And they said, we want to hire you because like the approach, the way that you were talking, how you respectful are. So yeah, I would say that just be nice, and don't be afraid to say that you don't know anything, something, not anything. Yeah. So, and in terms of design, just make sure that you know your design process well, that try to repeat yourself, try to write your design process on a piece of paper, because that's like the most common question that you have during your design interviews is like, what is your design process? How do you approach this problem? So just make sure that you know everything about your design process. And also they're also looking for people who can work in the team. So yeah, try to experience this working in the team, designing in the team, and it will definitely help you during the interviews.
Yeah, so for those of you who are interested in UI UX, definitely focus on the design process. But just in general, I like that how you and Aditi both mentioned that, like, treat them as a friend. Don't treat them as if your future is in their hands. Treat them as somebody that you might potentially be working with in the next coming weeks, in the next coming months. And once you think about it like that, I definitely do believe the pressure would be taken off a little bit, and you might be more relaxed during your interviews, which would of course bode well for you. So thank you for that. Param, do you have any thoughts on this, on, I guess, the interview process?
Yeah, I think everyone raised some pretty good points. What I personally also do is, as Aditi said, I look up my interviewers on LinkedIn, and I just go through their like university past experiences and background. And then I try to see if I like relate in some way to what they've done, or if I am interested in what they've been doing. And I try to bring that up in the interview. And I think that kind of helps like bringing a common point for you to connect over and building a rapport. And for me, for the internship that I got, I only had one interview, and that was technical. So it was just a brief 10-minute introduction and getting to know the CTO of the company, and followed by 4 programming questions. And I think the key here is practice. And I personally used a lot of lead code to solve programming problems. And even while doing that, I think it's very important to just be calm and explain think out loud, explain what your thought process and your approach. And in my interview, out of those 4, 2 I completely finished. One I wrote like a pseudocode, just like typing out my approach and my answer. And the last one I couldn't even finish on time. But it's important to remember that you explain your thought processes well, and I think that goes a long way in showing that you're a person who will be easy to work with, and yeah, just maintaining good communication. So I think, yeah, those 2 are important for like my process.
No, definitely. Just as a follow-up, you mentioned that you didn't get a chance to complete one of the 4 interview questions, if you will. In that case, what would you do as a student? Say you don't even know how to approach it. What would you do? I mean, if you're at a standstill, what would you recommend somebody do?
I would ask clarify assumptions of the questions. So if I'm stuck at a place, I can just clarify with the interviewer. So just maintain like a constant communication about which part you're stuck at and what is the approach that you're taking. And after that, most interviewers do give you like hints and help you out, pushing you. Like I think one important point to make is the interviewers want you to succeed. It's not like they're trying to test you and eliminate, like weed out bad candidates or something. They want you to succeed. So most interviewers are very helpful in that way. And even after, like if their hints do not help you, you can just say that I cannot find the right approach of solving this. And there's like a debatable approach to this is saying that, oh, I can reach out to you after the interview by figuring out the problem. I haven't faced this scenario myself, but that's something to think about as well. Just to, just rounding it off, just maintain communication, and I think you'll be fine.
Right, just as a sort of backup, just say in case that you are stuck, I'll try to finish this problem later and then I'll get back to you. But no, I think you're right when you say that the recruiters or the interviewers, they're there to help you. And sometimes you're making an assumption, you should probably state that I'm making this assumption and then working off of that. Or you can ask them to confirm whatever assumption you're making. And I'm positive 9 out of 10 times the recruiters are there to help you. So of course, I'm sure that they'll provide some sort of help, guidance, or suggestions as to which direction you can take it. Julie, do you want to jump in here and then let us know your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are asking for more specific ML and AI interview tips, which is the kind of that I've done. So I'll go into that. But I think a really important thing in interviews, especially when you're at a big company, is that you're not going to be interviewed by the person you're probably going to be working with, but they're going to get a bunch of different engineers from different parts of the company. And those are the people that are going to interview you. So there's kind of a really nice part about that is that you get to learn their different experiences. I think a really important thing is to also give them a chance to, to ask questions at the end about them in the interview process. And like everyone said, they're there to help you. I've been stuck more than once on a problem, and they'll give you like those hints, and it's communicating that you're struggling, because that's a really important skill to have as an intern, right? They don't expect you to know everything, but they do expect you to know when to ask and when to seek that help. And that's kind of what sometimes they'll throw a curveball at you just to see how you're going to react, to see, are you going to ask for help, and how are you going to communicate that you're struggling? I don't think it's not a weakness to not know everything. It's actually a strength, and to be able to rely on that, like the interviewer to help you out is super helpful. And in the sense of, I guess, for more like AI, ML specific tech interviews, I feel like it's really important to know your data structures. I'm sure everyone says that. I personally have not done the leak code stuff, but I heard that really helps. For me, it's been a lot of more active learning for myself, coming up, looking up some of those interview questions that company asks usually and stuff like that, and doing more research specific to that company. For example, Amazon is they do package delivery and stuff. So those kind of questions actually showed up at the interview, where they wanted you to filter through things and figure out that kind of. So when you think about what the company does, their questions are going to be tailored towards what potential things you would do in that role for that company. So I think knowing what the company does, knowing your tech skills, and trying to see what would they ask me, I think has been probably the best way to prepare for the interviews. In terms of technology, but there's only so much they can ask. They're going to ask you a lot of, big O notation, all these other things that you would have learned in first year. But I would say that nothing beyond first or second year in any computer science program will actually be tested on an interview for these kind of jobs, right? As long as you know your stuff. And I've done a lot of mock tech interviews with people, being the interviewer and the interviewee in both scenarios. And that also is really helpful, because once you practice and you get used to that idea of talking to someone through your code, by the time you do it the 10th, 11th time, it's easy, right? You know how to talk it through. And that's really, I think, parallel to what an internship would actually be like when you're doing code reviews and stuff. So it's just like everything kind of just connects to how the job will be. So you can learn a lot from your interview too, like from that, what that company is.
Right, no, for sure. I've also heard that a lot of the smaller companies sometimes tend to copy the interview format or style, sometimes even just the interview questions themselves from top tier companies like Google and Amazon. So I'm sure it's very easy to find common interview questions for specific roles at top tier companies like that. And you can even use those to prep if you're not able to find company specific ones. So I like the fact that you brought that up. Param, I noticed that you mentioned cracking the coding interview. Very popular book. Definitely recommend that to students who would like to get, I guess, a head start or some practice into how to approach the technical interview portion.
Yeah, for sure. I think it covers like all the bases from like data structures, time complexity, algorithms, and also approaching those problems and how to talk through your code. I think yeah, the author does a fantastic job at writing all this stuff.
Right. More than anything, it's all about that communication within technical interviews. Even if you don't necessarily know how to solve a certain question, at least explaining your thought process would definitely help, I guess, explain your perspective and what you're thinking when you're approaching any question. So yeah, thank you guys so much for your feedback. That was definitely some tangible advice that I think students can apply when, I guess, preparing for their interviews. We are now going to move on to our discussion portion where the students can ask questions. So everybody who's watching, please feel free to submit your questions in the chat. And if you're comfortable doing so, you can even unmute yourself and ask a question. If you would like to stay anonymous, please just message me privately and I will ask the question. So far, we have already received some. It seems that somebody asked, what skills should I have for an AI ML related field for my first internship? So for those of you who are in AI ML, for our speakers, what would you guys tell, I guess, like, as in, what skills would you recommend having on your resume?
I'll go based off of my first AI ML internship after second year, and I knew nothing about AI and ML, and that was perfectly fine. Sometimes having that passion is sufficient, but if I were to look back, like one of the really important things that was really helpful to know is just having that really good foundation of understanding algorithms and how they work. And just like most of it will be done in Python. So as long as you're pretty good and savvy with Python, you should be fine. But it is a niche topic that isn't really taught until your upper years. So it's totally fine to not know anything. I think like if they're hiring you as a second or third year, your courses would have prepared you enough, but it's being able to communicate like what you've learned on your resume. So putting things like for like ML and AI specifically, like any Python stuff, anything related to understanding PyTorch or TensorFlow, like skills, and there's like really good LinkedIn learning kind of like our ramp up things you can do are really helpful. And there's also a really cool intro to ML on Coursera. That's also really cool that I would also recommend. But yeah, those are, I guess, the skills.
Sorry, was somebody about to say something? So from what I've heard, it's Coursera, Python, focusing on Python as a language, and the Intro to ML course on Coursera, and then LinkedIn courses about, I'm assuming, Python, just data structures in general. And yeah, I think that's what I'm getting as the main gist. We also have the question of how many projects should we have for a UI, UX, or front-end position?
So for UI UX position, again, everybody understands that you're a student. You don't have to have like a full portfolio of 10 projects and case studies. As far as I know, 3 or 4 is completely enough to have on your portfolio. You just have to, to show this project as the best that you can, to explain what the problem was, how did you solve it, to explain your UX decisions, to explain your UI decisions, and present your high fidelity wireframes. So I think if you're gonna do like 3 nice or 4 nice case studies and projects on your portfolio, it will be completely enough.
For sure. I mean, I'm sure that they do understand we are still students and we're applying for internship positions. So yeah, keep that in mind, I guess, when you're applying for UI UX positions. I have another question that's more general. This is an interesting question. How do you find networkings or communities or mentors when there are some opportunities within your university? What would you guys recommend for those who don't have an opportunity to join, different organizations that might help contribute to the technology discussion? What would you guys say that they can do?
I think someone already put this in chat, but Jumpstart is a great place for you to connect with other people. And another one is called ladder.to. I think I put it in chat, and they were originally remote students. That was what the platform was called. And it's a platform built by students out of Stanford. And I think they started this at the beginning of COVID lockdowns. And yeah, it's just a great place where you can form communities by interest. So there's a whole UI UX community, entrepreneurship community, and you can just it's like Facebook kind of, where you can post and just interact with students who are similar to you. So yeah, I feel that that's a pretty good platform uh, to look for internships. They also have a Reddit board. So if you are like an active member and you talk and post a lot on the platform, you get this feature unlocked where whoever's working in a particular company, they like put their information up and just tell you, send me your details, and I can definitely refer you for at the company that I'm working at. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking that out.
Wow, I'm just reminded, I haven't heard of this. That's really interesting. Thank you for bringing that up. So everybody note down ladder.to. Any other advice from anybody else?
Yeah, I also use ladder.to. It's an awesome tool. What else I would add to it is maybe rewriting the code is amazing for all the women technologists out there. Rewriting the code and maybe join the Grace Hopper celebration group. I just made the Grace Hopper Discord. If y'all want to join that, I'll post that in the Grace Hopper group soon enough. But having those tools, there are a lot of people who post like, hey, I can refer you to these positions, specifically in rewriting the code. Like they post about these things where I can refer you to this company, I can talk about this and what are the tips and everything. These are some awesome ways to connect. And I think there's some, for the UI UX, I've heard about this thing called the UI UX buddies. I don't know if you were a part of it. I think it has like 2,000-ish people over there, and it's a huge community for all the people who are into UI UX. I'll probably find a link and post it here. But yeah, those are the things that I would recommend in community-wise if you were to do something.
For sure, for sure. These are all great ways of connecting with people that have similar passions and interests as you do. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for your insights. I think that's all the time that we have for today for questions. We can wrap up now. We've reached the end of today's session. Thank you so much to all 5 of our speakers for all of your insights and your advice around your career and just for the amazing talk in general. And thank you to everyone who did attend this call. And yeah, we're going to be starting our next talk, which is called Getting into a Tech Career from a Non-Technical Background. I'll enter the details in the chat. And for those of you who are interested, I highly recommend you attend. Thank you so much again, guys. And to all of our speakers, feel free to share any social media links that you would like the audience to use to continue to follow you or stay connected with you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Thank you.
Good luck
It was
with your
fun talking to
internship
you.
search.